Hello, guys. This is Mr. O'Taylor with System of Care. I'm going to be sharing with you guys information about the 2 by 10 and giving you guys a rationale as to why the 2 by 10 is very important. When we develop plans for students and we ask that teachers incorporate the 2 by 10, it's no longer a suggestion anymore because if we are going to hold students accountable to meet their part of the bargain, we also have to hold adults accountable to meet their part of the bargain. And I call it a bargain because it's a give and take relationship. We can't set goals for students without putting the proper support systems in place to make sure that they actually meet the goal. No different than when you're teaching an academic assignment. You're going to explain the assignment to the student. You may have to accommodate the student. You may have to change certain things that you did in the instructional methodology of the instruction in order for the student to get it. All those things that you do academically as a teacher to make sure that students understand the content, that's the same principle. Those same principles apply with behavior. So when we're doing a plan for a student, when it's dealing with behavior, we have to be very intentional with our practices. It's not that it's an extra thing for me to do. Well, why can't the student just behave like everybody else? Obviously, the data shows that a particular student is not behaving. They're not meeting the expectations that are set inside the classroom. So what does that mean for the teacher? For the teacher that's in place, that means that you have to try something different. You cannot continue trying the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting a different result. That's insanity. So when we do a 2 by 10, when I put on a plan and I say a 2 by 10, a lot of teachers are confused about that. They think it's just, oh, we're just talking and having a conversation, but it's much more nuanced than that. Hopefully, after this presentation, you guys will have a better and a clearer understanding as to why the 2 by 10 is important and why the base of building relationships with students stands as the quintessential component of actually getting students to decrease the frequency, duration, and the intensity of their behavior. Because it's not about controlling the student, it's about mitigating the persistence of those misbehaviors. You want to have less misbehaviors and more opportunities where the student is actually displaying those expectations that you actually want to see inside the classroom. So give me a second here. I'm going to share my screen and share the presentation with you guys about the 2 by 10. Okay, so of course, why do we do what we do? We do everything we do because our goal is to be 224 for every child. And these are our core characteristics and core values. Every child, collective greatness, collaborative spirit, limitless curiosity, moral compass, and these are the characteristics that embody those values. We always have to do this for presentation. This is just protocol. So this is just me going through what I have to go through. Now let's get to the meat and potatoes of why I'm here and why we're doing this. This is about the 2 by 10, building relationships to improve student relationships. Okay. The next slide. What is the 2 by 10? You spend 2 uninterrupted minutes with a student for 10 consecutive school days. That's why it's called a 2 by 10, 2 minutes, 10 days. So when I ask teachers to do this, this is not something that we are requiring you to do for the duration of the year. It's only 2 weeks of you investing your time into that child. Conversations is positive and student led. That means you have to ask questions to have the student lead the conversation. When I say student led, it doesn't mean that the student is going to come to you and say, hey, Mr. So and so, I need you to sit down with me so we can do our 2 by 10. That's not what I mean by student led. You are the teacher. You are the authoritative figure inside the classroom. You're going to sit down with the student and ask probing questions to have the student open up. And as the student opens up, that's when the conversation is student led. No academics, no correction or discipline during this time. So we're not talking about their assignments. This is essentially non-school related stuff. This is about you connecting with that student for 2 minutes, not 5 minutes, not 10 minutes, but just 2 minutes. Why? Why the 2 by 10 and why does this work? Well, strong relationships increase student engagement. Students are more likely to listen to you and engage in your class if they like you. I do believe the students have to like you. I'm not saying that the student has to be your friend. We still have to keep those boundaries set very firm. You can't cross that line. You are the teacher, you are the adult, that's the child, that's the student. However, your students have to like you. They can't hate you. Students are not going to work or listen to a person that they hate. So strong relationships increase student engagement. Students are more responsive to adults they trust. And that's what the conversations are doing. You're building trust. Trust is not made, it's built. Hence, the term built means you have to work at it. You have to build. It takes time. So the science says that it takes 10 days to build that relationship if you do this 2x10 with fidelity. All right. Next, reduces power struggles and repeated behavior issues. Small time investment can lead to big behavior gains. So it's a small investment. Again, we're not doing this for the entire school year. We're just doing this for 10 days. Next, who should use a 2x10? Well, students with repeated behavior concerns. When we got called for a plan for this particular student, I'm not going to mention the student's name on this video. I looked at the referrals. It's persistent. It's repeated behaviors. So what are we going to do about it? Are we going to just hope that the student changes on their own? No. If a student does not understand an academic concept, do we just say, well, hopefully one day they just get it? No. As teachers, we buckle down, we reteach the content, we may do small groups, we may pull that child, right, one-on-one. We may slow down the process to make sure that the child understands it. We may even allow the student to apply their feedback differently from anybody else. So if people are writing a response in an essay, you might tell the student, say, hey, you may not need to write an essay. How about you just draw it out for me? Or how about you tell me audibly? So there are many ways. There are a plethora of ways to skin a cat, if I can use that motto. All right. You don't have to just hope that the child changes their behavior. There has to be a part of the adult that changes as well if we want a changed behavior. So the reason why I've gotten to this point of making the video is because there are many campuses that I go to and I talk about the 2x10, not to this extent. I just kind of talk about it briefly and teachers don't do it. They don't do it. And they say, oh, well, their behavior hasn't changed, but has your behavior changed? I'm not looking at the child. Every time we incorporate a plan or we insert a plan into a student's life, I'm looking at the behavior of the adult. Now, you may say that's not fair. I'm not the one misbehaving, it's the student. Well, we get that. But I have to see that the adult is doing their part. If you're doing your part and it's still not working, that's great. You know why? Because that's also data that could be collected to say that all these measures were put in place and it still did not work. But we truly can't say that unless we actually apply the interventions and the supports with fidelity. All right. So students with repeated behavior, these are the students that need the 2x10. Students who appear disconnected or withdrawn. These are students who struggle with a compliance or engagement. It can be implemented by teachers, counselors, or administrators. But in this case, we're not asking for that. We want the teachers to do it. We want the teachers to do it. How to implement the 2x10. Choose one student and one consistent adult. In this case, you're not choosing the student. The student has already been chosen for you. If you look at the email that I sent you, you have the student's name on that email, abbreviation ER, that's the student's name. You have the plan, you have everything that you need. Choose the student. You're not choosing, I chose it for you. Well, the student chose himself because his behaviors has called for us to actually intervene and take these measures in order to decrease and mitigate those unwanted behaviors. Select a consistent time of the day. You have to be consistent. So it doesn't mean that you can just do the 2x10 whenever you want. You have to have structure. And that's what I try to tell all my teachers that I support. Whatever you do one day, you have to be consistent. Inconsistency is not kind. Consistency is kind. It's kind because it allows the child to regulate. They know what's coming next. When kids don't know what's coming next, they're more likely to be more erratic, more impulsive, and they become unregulated. If you want to regulate a child and you want to keep that calm in your class, you have to give that synergistic relationship between teacher and student in a way where teacher knows what's coming next, student knows what's coming next. There's sort of an alignment that's set there. It's an invisible line that you can't see. And this is cultivated over time. So consistency denotes time, right? It takes time to build consistency because what you do on Monday has to be done on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's when you get consistency. You can't do it one day on Monday in the morning in the beginning of class, and then the next day do it later on at the end of class. That's inconsistency. So you need time to do that. So consistency is built over time, and so is relationships. Relationships and consistency are both built over time. So you have to make sure that you have to select a consistent time of the day to do that 2x10 with that student. It could be at the beginning of the class, or it could be at the end. Choose one and stick to it. Engage in positive conversations for 2 minutes. I don't care if they had a horrible day in your classroom. We're not talking about the horrible day that they had in their classroom. All right? We're just talking. And I'm going to give you guys some scripts, certain suggestions that can get you started and how you can engage a student in getting them to kind of talk to you, because sometimes a student may not want to talk, and we're going to get to that later. Repeat daily for 10 consecutive days. You guys know that. That's why it's called a 2x10. Next, what to talk about. Student interests and hobbies. How do I know their student? How do I know their interests? That's why you talk to them. That's why you ask them questions. Favorite music, games, or activities, strengths and talents, opinions or preferences. Ask questions. Get to know the child. Next, what not to do. These are things that you do not want to do. Do not discuss missing work or grades. This is not the time for that. Do not correct. Do not correct the behaviors that you saw in the classroom, if there were any. Do not lecture or give consequences, and do not rush or multitask. Let me put my phone on silent because it's making noise here. Okay, so these are things that you should not be doing. Tips for success: be genuine and consistent. Again, you've heard that word consistent. So whenever you hear something multiple times, you have to understand that this must be very important. So make sure that you are consistent. Be genuine and consistent. Listen more than you talk. End each interaction positively. Expect gradual change over time. I don't care if they had a horrible day. You have to hope and expect for the best. Why do I say that, teachers? Is because if you're hoping for the best, you're more likely to stick in for the long game. If you're just thinking that there's no hope for the student, then there's no hope for you. You are the implementer of the tool. You are the wielder of the axe. If you don't have confidence in wielding your tool, then you become obsolete. Your practices become inoperable. You can't operate to your optimal capacity. So you need to have that hope. You need to expect gradual change over time, because as you're trying to change that student, you're also changing yourself as well, because you're now putting yourself in a different mental paradigm that you didn't have before. Now you're doing something that you're not really accustomed to doing. When I say 2x10 to teachers, I have this, they give me this stare like, 2x10, why do I have to do that? Why not? You're doing it anyway, but you're just doing it in a negative way. You're still addressing the student. You're still talking to the student, but everything that you're doing, all the practices that you're putting in place, all of them, they're not yielding the results that you want. So you're working harder, not smarter. And we don't want that. So these are the tips for success. Be genuine, listen more than you talk, end each conversation positively, and expect gradual change over time. Tracking and reflection. Track completion of daily interactions. Note student engagement levels. You're going to have a document for that. Why am I doing this? Because if it's not written down, it never happened. So this is what happens. I'm going to give you guys a rationale for this. If, let's say the student doesn't meet their goals, and let's say we have to go to the next steps. We have to take the next steps. The next measures have to be taken. And hypothetically speaking, the plan didn't work. Everything you guys have done everything with fidelity. And let's say we are suggesting that the student go to an alternative campus, all right, hypothetically speaking. And I come to collect the data, right? If I come to collect the data and the data is not there for me to see, because if I don't see it, it never happened. You can tell me, oh, Mr. O, I did the 2x10 every day. Where? Because I'm not monitoring your class. I don't have a hidden camera in your classroom. I'm not Big Brother. I don't know what you're doing in your classroom. I'm not in your classroom. As a matter of fact, I go from campus to campus. I go to rooms to observe teachers when necessary, but I can't be in your class every day. So how am I going to know that you've done this? Because I'm going to ask the student. I ask students. I'm like, hey, did your teacher talk to you today for 2 minutes? Do they sit down and pull you and talk to you every day? Oh, they give me this blank stare like, no. So I know it's not happening. So how do I know that it's happening? Well, I'm going to know it's happening because you're going to have to log it. Note student engagement level, reflect on behavior changes after 7 to 10 days, continue positive interactions beyond the 10 days. There's a document for this. It's simple, it's short. You're not writing essays and you'll see it. It's just checks. That's all it is. Okay? When I created this with the teacher's lens in mind. I was a teacher as well. I understand. Sometimes you get things, you start to prioritize. What's more important? You slide the documents to the side and you never see it again. I know how it was. I was that teacher who my desk was when I first started teaching, my desk was unorganized. I have so much things on my desk. But when I got more structured, I started to kind of clear the clutter. And I understood that everything that I was getting was used to benefit my practice. So I had to on the weekends. Yes, I get it. No one wants to work on the weekends, but on the weekends, I would personally look through certain things and say, okay, I see why they're saying this. Okay, I'm gonna try this. You have to slow things down to move fast. A lot of times we're moving fast and it ends up slowing us down. It's kind of counterproductive, right? Counterintuitive. You think that moving fast will cause you to move fast, but moving fast causes you to move slow. Sometimes we have to slow things down in order to move in in an efficient way. So tracking and reflection is going to be needed. There's going to be a document that I'm going to come and see to make sure that this was done. Why? Because if the student does end up going to a DAEP, which we hope that doesn't happen, we can show this I could show this to my executive director, I could show this to my director. I can show this to the higher ups, the people who get paid the big bucks, the people who make those decisions, since they can say, okay, this is documentation. I can create a graph to show that these were the days that the 2x10 was done, and this is his behaviors. Everything will be tracked. But if you guys don't track it, it never happened. Again, I'm going to say it one more time. If you guys don't track it, it never happened. So you guys have to track it. Okay. Final thought: relationships are the foundation of behavior change. 2 minutes a day can make a lasting impact. Okay. So if you have any questions about this, you can email me. Um, and I'll be here to answer any questions, but we have to make sure that we incorporate this 2x10. This is no longer a suggestion because if we put supports in place and if it's part of a student's plan and you don't incorporate that, and that's negligence on our part. We can't get upset when the student doesn't meet their goal because you're not doing your part either. So no one's doing their part. So it's a lose-lose proposition. Okay, so let's keep that in mind and make sure that we push forward and make sure that we do what we can do to help students. And don't knock something until you try it. I've had many teachers who've tried this who come back to me say, wow, I've seen a difference in that child's behavior. But you cannot see a difference in the child's behavior until you see a difference in your behavior. All right, thank you guys for listening. Until next time, peace.